Morning, Dan and Amy. I think it's instructive that the assembled American press corps covering the Winter Olympics and the political angles, cultural angles, finds Shaun White to be more of a concern for us than the North Korean regime and its appendages like Kim Jong-un's sister, the propaganda minister, who apparently is in line for a gold medal in diplomacy, according to Reuters, of all outlets. I mean, it's...
and CNN saying that she's stealing the spotlight at Pyeongchang or PF Chang's, whatever you decide to call it.
If you're ABC 7 here in Chicago.
And that she's, I mean, how is she stealing the spotlight from the athletes? I'm not focused on her. I'm focusing on the talent out in the competition.
She's stealing the spotlight because they're putting the spotlight on her so that they can...
rave about her skin tone,
elevate her. It's just the most remarkable thing. I mean, Ben Domenech in the Federalist, we talked about yesterday, a piece taking up the coverage and suggesting, in case you were not clear, America, your media hates you. Noah Rothman, our friend over at Commentary Magazine, had a piece on the topic as well. Fawning over North Korea's quote-unquote Ivanka isn't harmless. Let's get his take. Noah Rothman, the associate editor for Commentary Magazine, joins us now. Noah, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So why isn't terming Kim Jong-un's propaganda minister sister the Ivanka of North Korea? Why is that not harmless?
If you were to view anything and everything through sort of a chauvinistic prism, through American political lenses, then you wouldn't see how potentially that kind of coverage could impact politics on the peninsula. But if you were familiar with Korean politics, as I suppose the media probably should be when they dispatch themselves to a foreign country, at least cursory familiarity, they would know that the South Korean regime is currently a sunshine regime, which is an all-catch-all phrase that covers dovish Koreans who favor interaction, reconciliation, and eventual reunification with North Korea. They're usually more lenient, they're not hawkish, and they're pretty conciliatory. And so when North Korea puts on a smile and appears before them and makes overtures, however cosmetic they may be, those governments are usually pretty receptive to them. And the history of those efforts is that they're essentially stall tactics. They usually aren't very sincere, and they can result in some real costs, so especially lost time for the United States and the South Korean regimes in their efforts to contain North Korea's nuclear policy. So when you get a ton of stories, and I read tons of them, that said that North Korea's diplomatic offensive here is bearing a lot of fruit, and Mike Pence was sidelined because he got scowled at by this woman, and he didn't appear at the Blue House, and he didn't stand for North Korea's athletic representatives, so he was kind of in the back burner. It creates an impression for the South Korean public and the American public that things are going pretty much okay. You don't really need America's involvement on the peninsula. Maybe America is the obstacle to peace on the peninsula. That's DPRK's goal. It's been their goal for 70 years, to create the impression that the United States is the obstacle to peace, not the guarantor of it, and that their position needs to be weakened in the peninsula. So anything that aids in that goal helps North Korea. And to the extent that this coverage helps North Korea, it was an effort on the part of the press to sort of, I guess, send some sort of a signal to the Trump administration and Mike Pence, but all it did was support America's adversaries.
Well, also, doesn't it sanitize North Korea a bit, too? I mean, Otto Warmbier, whose parents were recognized at the State of the Union, still fresh in our minds, or should be, North Korea, the heat map of North and South Korea is about the most popular thing on Twitter, showing, one light in Pyongyang and darkness everywhere else as compared to their neighbors to the south. And the persecution of Christians, the starvation, on and on and on. And all that is glossed over as we're just playing this game of Risk with North Korea.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much space to devote in an article about something else, about the myriad historic crimes associated with the North Korean regime. You could spend a book recounting the times that Americans were killed, that narcotics were exported, that weapons were exported to non-state actors and terrorists. You could go on and on and on. So, I mean, that's sort of, some of that stuff has to be assumed. But yes, I believe there should probably be at least a nod or a mention to it somewhere in these efforts, in these stories. What was really frustrating is the extent to which it seems like you get the impression from readership who isn't all that familiar with the stuff you just mentioned, that they find the Trump administration to be the aggressor here, to be the destabilizing element, because that's the new element, right? The Trump administration wasn't there last year, it is, or 2 years ago, it is now. North Korea's been there forever, South Korea's been there forever. If you don't know a lot about this sort of situation, you would say, well, the balance has changed and the story has ramped up because the Trump administration is there and it's new. And that's remarkably obtuse and creates a moral relativism that is just repulsive. The only party here that is destabilizing is the party that is testing boosted fission weapons, intercontinental ballistic missiles, reentry vehicles, the party that is continually aggressively destabilizing the international environment. The United States is a status quo power. North Korea is not. North Korea wants it.
All right.
And
so, yeah.
anybody who doesn't recognize that is contributing to North Korea's advantages and North Korea's objectives.
Well, isn't North Korea, I mean, they're accomplishing their goals by being at the Olympics. Kim Jong-un's sister invited the president of the IOC to come to North Korea to visit. He has agreed to. And then they also extended an invitation to the president of South Korea to come to North Korea and visit. Do you think anything could be accomplished during that visit?
Well, no, I don't think so. I mean, like I said, these are the sort of things. And if the South Korean President Moon were to accept this invitation with no movement in any direction on the nuclear program, it would be a real problem, a real detriment to America's objectives on the peninsula. Look, we're talking now about talks just to have talks, but they're not really talks to have talks. What the administration has done is set the objective that we will sit down with this regime if there is no testing of missiles, intermediate missiles, nuclear bombs, just no testing whatsoever, just at least a pause. That's something. It's not a lot, but it's something, and it's a way to ramp down tensions on the peninsula. The fear is that those efforts will be undermined by a South Korean regime that is really dovish and really interested in engagement and looks at this lady who smiles at them with her freckles and her understated makeup and will undermine that effort. And that would be a problem. That would be a real big deal. So it's the sort of thing that when you have a press that creates that objective or that impression that this is somebody that you can work with, it is a problem for the United States and therefore for the rest of the world.
Sheila Jackson Lee just wants North and South Korea to live peacefully side by side, just like North and South Vietnam do today. Oh, wait. One of my favorite Sheila Jackson Lees of all time, not recognizing a Vietnam reunification 4 decades later. Just a little Sheila Jackson Lee shot. I mean, I have to take them when they are available.
No one's going to blame you.
No, I wanted to get your take. We just talked to Jed Babin about the news yesterday that charges have been recommended against Bibi Netanyahu in Israel for taking expensive gifts from businessmen, and what your prognosis is for Bibi's political future there, and obviously the follow-up question, if these charges were to be filed, if Netanyahu's going to have to step down, if that's a possibility, how destabilizing would that be for the region as it pertains to America's interests?
I honestly don't know. I'm not a seriously, tuned-in expert in the region. It's my understanding that he would have to step down if there was a formal indictment filed. But to the extent that it would seriously impact the region immediately, I'm not sure if I would see that. If he were replaced by a labor government, that could have a really big impact on the geopolitical scene. But this is sort of something that's baked into the region. Israel is a democratic power. Israel is a power that is Republican and responsive to its voters and is a model for the region. So when you have the rule of law being demonstrated, and politicians and people in power like Benjamin Netanyahu, who's been in power for quite some time, responding to it as he should in a constitutional fashion, it's not something to be ashamed of. It's not something to be worried about. It's part of the process, and it's something that I think is ennobling for Israel, ennobling for democratic powers around the world. It should give everybody a lot of hope.
All right, very good. Noah Rothman, Associate Editor for Commentary Magazine. Noah, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.